You've done this before. You walk into a house you were excited about, and about 8 seconds later, something in you goes quiet. The photos were beautiful. The price makes sense. Nothing is wrong, and yet you still feel it. So you talk yourself out of it because you can't name it. And you don't want to be the person who kills a house over a feeling. Here's what I want you to know. That feeling is data. Your eyes are already running a test at the front door, whether you ask them to or not. 8 seconds, 8 things. Today, I'm naming all 8. So next time, you could say it out loud. Hi, I'm Abigail Anderson. I'm a realtor here on Washington's Eastside. I grew up around a builder and an interior designer, which means I got taught to read a house from the inside out. Mostly at the dinner table, mostly whether I wanted to or not. Here's the thing. You think the entry is decoration. It isn't. It's the honest room. Builders draw the rooms that sell first. The kitchen, the primary suite, the great living room. The entry gets whatever's left over. So the entry is where the floor plan tells the truth before anybody's had a chance to stage it. And none of this needs you to know anything about construction. You don't measure anything. You don't move your feet. You stand where you drop your bag and you count to 8. Second one, look down into your sides. You come home with a kid on your hip, a bag on your shoulder, keys in your hand. That happens twice a day, every day, for as long as you own this house. So where does it all go? Most houses hand you a coat closet on the wrong wall or a foyer with nothing in it but a light fixture. And then your keys live on a kitchen island, the shoes pile up against the baseboard, and the mail never has a home. What I look for is landing spaces within arm's reach of the door. A closet you can open without stepping into another room. A bench, a surface, even just a blank wall you could put hooks on. A house that planned for arrival gives you at least 2 of those. This is the one on the list you can actually fix. If the wall is there, you can add hooks. If there's no wall, you can't. Call it the drop zone. A house without one doesn't fail at the front door. It fails on your kitchen counter every single day. The one you can fix with a drill and a Saturday. The next one you can't fix at all. Second 2, look straight ahead. Whatever is in front of you right now is what this house says to you every time you walk in for the next 10 years. You'll get one of 4 things. A blank wall 3 feet away, a side of a staircase, a bathroom door, or actual depth into the house. Now, I'm not against a tight entry. Some of the best houses I've walked into squeeze you at the door on purpose and then release you into the light and the height. That's a real move and it works. So the tell isn't the squeeze. The tell is a squeeze with nothing on the other side of it. Good houses squeeze you and then let you go. Bad houses just squeeze you. Second 3, width. Everybody arrives at the same time. Kids, groceries, your parents with a suitcase for 3 weeks. So here's a number worth carrying around. Code minimum for a hallway is 36 inches, 3 feet. That's the legal floor for a passage between bedrooms. Comfortable is more like 42 to 48. Now, look at the entry you're standing in. If it's the same width as a hallway, you don't have an entry. You have a hallway with a front door on it. The test is simple. Could 2 adults pass each other right here, one of them carrying something, without anybody turning sideways or backing into a room? An entry that measures like a hallway is going to live like one. Number 4 is the one nobody checks, and it takes about a second. Second 4, look behind you at the door itself. You're going to move furniture through this door twice at minimum, in and out, plus every couch, mattress, and refrigerator in between. A standard front door is 36 inches wide. Open it to 90 degrees and you get about 32 inches of clear opening. That's your real number. So Watch what the door actually does. Does it swing flat against the wall? Or does it stop at 70 degrees because it hits a closet door, a stair rail, a coat, a radiator? Does it open into the exact spot where people are supposed to stand? A door that can't lie flat is telling you the entry got drawn too small and the door got jammed in afterwards. Call it the swing steel. The front door should hand you the whole opening. If it keeps half of it, somebody ran out of room and hoped you wouldn't notice. Second 5, look up. This one runs backwards from what you'd expect because a 2-story entry reads as expensive. Here's what it actually cost. That volume came from somewhere. In most 2-story plans, a soaring entry is upstairs floor area you didn't get. It's also the hardest space in the house to heat, to cool, and to light. And it's usually the one spot where changing a bulb needs a ladder you don't own. So the question isn't, does it feel grand? The question is, what did the second floor give up for it, and did you get anything back? Sometimes you did. A good architect uses that height to pull daylight deep into the house, or to make the stair the thing you actually look at. Then the trade is worth it. But if the upstairs hall is dark and pinched and there's 2 stories of empty air over the front door, you paid for square footage you can only look at. Height isn't quality. Height is trade. Ask what it traded. Second 6, light. Listing photos of an entry are almost always shot with the front door wide open or with every single lamp in the house turned on. So do the opposite. Shut the door, don't turn anything on, stand there. Where's the daylight coming from? If the only light in this entry came through the door you just closed, and there's no window, no transom, no light borrowed from the room next to you, you're being told something about the whole plan. Usually it means the glass all got spent on one side of the house, the side with the view or the backyard, and everything else is interior. That matters here more than most places, and you already know why. Every house looks bright with a door open, so shut it and look again. Second 7 is the one you'll never stop counting once I say it out loud. Second 7, count the doors. Without moving your feet, how many doors can you see? Then ask what's behind each one. Entries collect doors because entry space is cheap circulation. Powder room, coat closet, laundry, garage, stairs, sometimes an office with glass doors, sometimes an actual bedroom. Here's why it matters. A powder room opening straight into the entry means every guest's bathroom trip happens in your arrival space, and you hear it from the couch. Stairs landing in the entry mean every trip upstairs crosses your front door. And if you could see a bedroom door from the front door, that room is never going to feel private. Whoever sleeps there knows it. An entry with 5 doors on it isn't an entry, it's an intersection. Second 8, and this is the one that's going to change how you tour. You'll walk through the front door of this house a few hundred times a year. You'll walk through the garage door thousands, and every house on the market is staged for the front door. That's where the console table goes, and the mirror, and the fresh paint. The door from the garage gets nothing because nobody's trying to sell you that one. So before you leave, go out to the garage and come back in through that door. Then run all 7 again. Drop zone, what's in front of you, width, the swing, the ceiling, the light, what's stacked on it, and then add 1 more. With groceries in your arm, how many rooms do you cross before you hit a counter you could set them down on? If the answer is through the living room, you're doing that with milk and a toddler for the next 10 years. Tour the house they staged, then tour the door you'll actually use. Those are 2 different houses, and only one of them is yours. So that's the whole test. 8 seconds, 8 reads, standing still. Drop zone, what's in front of you, width, the swing, the ceiling, the light, the doors, and then the garage. which is the real one. None of these kill a house on their own. You count them. 1 is a shrug. 3 is a pattern. 5, and you're not looking at a house somebody's designed. You're looking at a house somebody arranged. And here's the part I actually want you to keep. You were already running this test. You've been running it at every house you've walked into for a year. You just didn't have the words for it, so you overruled yourself. You had the right instinct, and now you have the list. I'm Abigail Anderson, realtor here on Washington's East Side, and I'll see you in the next one.